Hello and welcome. You are now tuned into the Ebb and Flow podcast. I'm your host, Atlanta-based author, model, and artist, Ebonee Davis. Welcome back to another episode of the Ebb and Flow podcast. Today I want to talk about something that we've all encountered. If we haven't yet, we will. Something that I wasn't ready for, but had to make room for, had to learn how to live with, how to cope with, how to adapt to, and that is grief. And I experienced that grief due to the loss of my baby brother, Savon, in 2023, because at just 19 years old, he was shot and killed in the streets. And so it sent ripples through my family, waves of hurt, loss, pain, and anger, confusion, even wanting revenge for myself, seeing red, seeing blood, wanting to confront the person who did this, wanting to go to his mother's house or his grandmother's house and knock on their door and tell them that they raised a killer, they raised a murderer, they raised a monster. And I had to learn how to manage that and to work with that because it's all raw energy. It can be manipulated, changed, and turned into purpose. And that's what I've done with it. And I just want to share my process for anybody who might be dealing with anything similar. And I know a lot of people are, because when this happened, I was posting about it a lot on social media because it dominated my reality. And that's really all I could talk about at the time. And so many people had stories just like mine. They lost their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters, shot and killed by other people, shot and killed by police, whatever the case may be. It's like so many people had a story that was similar to mine. And it just made me recognize that God truly had a purpose for me in allowing me to go through this experience. And, there is no silver lining. There's no amount of purpose that is adequate or that will suffice in terms of losing somebody you love. Like I can spread all of the wisdom in the world, and I can do all of the good things, and I can talk about all of the healing, and none of that will ever add up to the life that was lost. But at least it can open up the gateway to healing when you're able to alchemize that pain and turn it into something beautiful for yourself and for others. It no longer has a hold on you. It no longer has a hold on your consciousness. You can release those feelings of revenge or anger or retaliation or anything that you might be holding on to. And you can recognize the good in them as well. I remember when I was so angry, and it was a type of anger that I couldn't disguise. Up until that point when my brother died, I was pretty good at disguising my anger, even allowing it to just sit inside of me and turn into melancholy, depression, anxiety, sadness, emotions that are typically more accepted by society when it comes to how women emote and express themselves. I can't necessarily be angry and get the love that I am actually asking for, but I can be sad and I can get the love that I'm asking for. I can be depressed and I can get the love that I'm asking for. I can be melancholy and get the love that I'm asking for. But anger is an emotion that is truly reserved for the masculine energy according to social standards. And so for the first time in my life, I just allowed myself to be angry without apology. And that freed me in so many ways. It opened up this completely new channel in my ability to feel, in my ability to process emotions, and my ability to express myself authentically. Anger is an authentic expression of how you feel, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's only the judgments that we project onto it. And oftentimes people take action from anger that is harmful toward themselves and other people. And that's why anger has such a bad reputation. But the pure raw energy of anger is not inherently bad. It can be used as a force for good. It can be used as a force for change. I'm sure Harriet Tubman was angry. I'm sure Martin Luther King was angry. I'm sure Malcolm X was angry. I'm sure Marcus Garvey was angry, right? I'm sure even Bob Marley, who talks about love and peace, was angry. There was a part of him that was frustrated with the reality that he was experiencing. And so he went out into the world and made himself an agent of change instead of just standing by and being complacent and allowing things to continue on as they had been. And so when the anger came along, it introduced me to this part of myself that was ready to change, that was ready to shift, that was ready to express. And it has helped to inform my art. It's helped to inform my creativity, helped to inform my ability to speak up for myself, helps to open up even my throat chakra and speak and say what I need to say without feeling like I need to walk on eggshells, tiptoe around anybody, or be apologetic in my speech. The grief introducing me to anger introduced me to repressed parts of myself that I otherwise wouldn't have access to. And grief can be such a beautiful thing because it introduces contrast into your reality. And it increases your ability to feel joy. Also, it increases your ability to feel love. You can only feel love to the capacity that you are willing to feel the opposite emotions. You can only feel happiness and joy to the capacity that you are willing to feel the opposite emotions that correspond. Because contrast is an essential part of how the universe functions. Like a tree can't grow to the sky unless its roots are deep, as above, so below. And so your willingness to go into the shadow is a reflection of your access to the light. Someone who embodies so much light, they often get a lot of envy and ridicule and projection. When I see somebody embodying light, I'm like, yo, they must be a freaking warrior because I know they've come up out of the darkness, yo. I know their roots are deep. And I'm not talking about people who know the language and who know the spiritual facts and who have read the books. I'm talking about people who really embody that shit, like who really don't even have to speak on it too much because they're just about it. You just feel the energy. Those are the people who I know. Your roots are deep. You've had to go through some darkness to get to the point where you're at today. In order for me to be the peaceful person I am today, I've had to traverse through the darkest of the dark. In order for me to be the wise person I am today, I've had to go through the wilderness. The wilderness is what bred the wisdom. Being in the light is just a side effect. That's just the end result. That's not the thing that made me wise. That's a byproduct. The wilderness made me wise. The light is a byproduct. And so in the same way, the joy and the peace and the happiness is the byproduct of the grief and being able to alchemize it and transmute it and turn it into something beautiful. There are a lot of ways that you can transmute grief. And another thing that grief introduced me to was movement and being in my body. Up until my brother died, a lot of my spiritual journey and my life experiences were taking place in my head. I'd gone through trauma as a child that really disconnected me from my body. I was exposed to a lot of adult content at a young age that overwhelmed my nervous system. And so I cut off a lot of my ability to feel my way through life, to feel my emotions, to express my feelings. And I intellectualized a lot. And I got very far intellectualizing. The world loves intellect. The world responds more to intellect than it does to feeling. I could intellectualize why I went through an experience and why it was teaching me what it was teaching me. And I could derive from that like a math equation. I could look at my trauma and I could understand it in an intellectual way, but that didn't mean the trauma wasn't still living in my body. And that's what grief made me realize, is that we can intellectualize and do the mental gymnastics to understand ourselves, but until we actually change the way we're eating, change the way we're moving, shifting our bodies to get that trauma out of the places that it's been stored, it remains there. You have the cellular memory of everything that you've been through and everything that your ancestors have been through trapped in your body, and you have to do the work to get it out. It's not just going to leave because you figured out in your head what lesson you learned from the trauma or what it was trying to teach you. You still have to release it from your body. And so I went about doing that by changing my diet, started eating a plant-based diet, started detoxing heavily, researching herbs that would help me to detox my body and just pull out all of the cellular memory and the trauma, because the physical and the metaphysical cannot be separated. The physical is a manifestation of the metaphysical. And so when you have illness and disease and toxins in your body, that is a reflection of trapped emotions, entity attachments, and other things that you simply need to purge out of your body and let go of in the spiritual realm. And so you have to take action to heal your body in the physical, which will also help to catapult your healing in the spiritual, and vice versa. You can do spiritual work that will help to heal your body, because they are truly one and the same, but you can't do one without the other. You have to do both. The interconnectedness requires you to do both. And so I was detoxing my body, researching herbs, because I knew that in pulling the toxins out of my body and pulling the stuck mucus and parasites and things out of my body, I was also pulling out the attachment to lower vibrational energies, low frequencies such as grief, sadness, regret, despair. I was also releasing those at the same time that I was releasing the mucus and the parasites and, whatever garbage was coming out of my body, changing the way I was eating, herbs, yoga. Yoga was huge for me. I really got into yoga after my brother died. I actually went to a workshop with Queen Afua called Womb Care Love, and we did some womb yoga, and I really got heavily into the practice. I think I went to the workshop in March. My brother died in May, and I went to the workshop in March. So by the time my brother died, I was like, okay, I'm dealing with this pain of this loss, but I have this tool that I've been given. Let me try to integrate it into my daily routine and see how it works for me. And so I started doing the womb yoga, because grief gets trapped in the lungs and it gets trapped in the womb. So for example, I know people who have gone through traumatic loss and then develop asthma, and that's because grief gets trapped in the lungs, which are right next to the heart. And so that is the center of our love, the center of our feeling. And so when that is hurting, that area then becomes deficient and it doesn't work as it's meant to. It also gets trapped in the womb, right? And so doing the womb yoga allowed me to reopen that area and to move the energy so that it didn't become stuck and stagnant and develop into polyps or cysts or fibroids or sickness. It allowed me to continue to maintain the flow, and not only to remove the grief and the sadness from the loss of my brother, but to dig up other emotions that were stuck there from previous loss, not as devastating as the loss of my brother. That's the first time I've truly experienced someone close to me of a young age passing away. I experienced the loss of my great grandfather, but he was already in his late 80s by the time he passed away. My brother was 19 years old, and it just was not expected. And so I was able to not only release the emotions associated with that loss, but release the emotions associated with other loss that I've experienced in my lifetime, and not just in my lifetime, but lifetimes before mine. So changing my diet, incorporating movement, stretching, opening up my body, recognizing that my vessel is keeping score. I haven't read that book yet, The Body Keeps Score, but I imagine that it goes into this topic quite heavily, that you can intellectualize your trauma all you want, but until you actually purge it out of your body on a cellular level, it still remains with you. And that is what grief taught me. That is what pain taught me. It also taught me how to love in a way that I have never loved before. Like I said, life revolves around contrast. That is our medicine for growth. When we can understand that as above, so below, this is a universal law that applies to everything in life, then I think we can relinquish a lot of our attachment to suffering, recognizing that everything is preparation for the next thing, and we don't have to stay in a state of suffering perpetually, recognizing that this is just preparing us. We don't have to be in a state of suffering at all, recognizing actually that there's truly no good or bad. There's only the judgment that we place on our experiences, and we can be grateful for all experiences, knowing that they are preparing us for an even greater purpose, an even greater mission, an even greater testimony, more glory to God, right? We can enter into things with a smile, no matter how painful they are. And of course, I'm saying this in retrospect. I probably wouldn't be singing the same tune if I was still deep in the midst of my grief over my brother, and I still cry about it. It still definitely hurts, but I have so many tools in place now, and I just have so much gratitude for all that God has done in my life. And like I said, I'm able to love in a way that I've never loved before, because I've felt lost in a way that I've never felt lost before. And my capacity to love is only as great as my capacity to lose and to hurt and to feel pain. So I truly have this deepened appreciation for life that I didn't even know that I could tap into. And it was only through the loss of life that I've gained this level of understanding and awareness of gratitude. Like, this is truly a gift, and it's not promised. Tomorrow is not promised, and I'm making the most of every single day, recognizing that at any moment we are so fragile, and at any moment our lives can be taken from us, and it's only by the grace of God that we are still standing here today. So I'm absolutely grateful for that. I feel like it removed layers of callous from my heart. Grief removed layers of callous from my heart, because it broke my heart open. And so my heart had to break out of whatever casing it was in that was keeping it protected, from whatever trauma or pain I was trying to prevent. And it really just expanded it so that I could feel more, receive more, be grateful for more, and just enjoy life more, experience life more, be more willing to go into life head first. Grief also made me just less afraid. It's like recognizing that at any moment life can be taken from you. What am I afraid of being perceived for? What am I afraid of other people's opinions for? That felt so silly. After losing my brother, being afraid of what other people thought of me felt like the most minute thing in the world. Like, the ultimate consequence that people actually fear when they fear being seen is death. They fear ridicule, because in village living, if you were outcast by the villagers that you were living with, you would go be on your own, and your chances of survival were very slim. They were very small. And so when we are carrying this fear of rejection, we're truly carrying with us the fear of death. But when you've confronted death and you've seen death face to face, the fear of rejection dissipates. It's like, I recognize the severity of the consequences actually, and that ain't that. Rejection isn't death, and even in my own life, not even experiencing the death of my brother, but experiencing my own ego death, experiencing my own spiritual deaths, recognizing that I've had to die so many times in this lifetime, and there's nothing that anybody outside of me can say or do or take away from me just by ridiculing me or judging me. I've had to die to my own judgment. I've had to die to my own accountability. I've had to die to my own responsibility so that I can be reborn into a higher dimension of myself. I've had to let my habits die. I've had to let my friendships die. I've had to let work die, jobs die, so that I could be reborn into the greatest version of who I can possibly be, who God called me to be on this planet. There's nothing anybody can do or say to me that can take that away. God has made me exactly who I am, and I'm fortified in that. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid anymore. I've confronted death. I've confronted the worst possible outcome that most people are subconsciously afraid of, and I've made it through. I was reborn, and I overcame grief. In my own life, I was reborn. My spiritual journey, I was reborn. When it came to my brother, I overcame grief. I got through it. I made it through. I've confronted death. I've made death a friend of mine. I understand my own mortality. And that's what makes life so beautiful and exciting, is because I do understand that none of this is promised. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the day. I'm grateful for the here. I'm grateful for the now. I'm grateful for presence. Grief really freed me in a lot of ways. And I just want to touch on too, like some of the plant medicine allies that helped to bring me through my grief. Like I said, when I went through this experience, my community really got me through it. And one of those people is Clarissa, a good sister friend of mine who was once a roommate of mine when I lived in Brooklyn. And once she heard of the passing of my brother, she gave me a ring and she told me about this beautiful medicine called cacao. Cacao is a beautiful heart opener. It's where chocolate is derived from. It's the raw, unfiltered, unsweetened form of chocolate. And it has very beautiful healing effects for the heart. And she called me on FaceTime and we did a virtual cacao ceremony. She told me where I could get the cacao and she guided me through ceremony, singing over FaceTime and showing me how to prepare the cacao for myself. And ultimately, that has led me to a place where now I can offer that medicine to other people, not only offering it from a place of intellectual, right? Being intellectual around it, reading about it online or in a book, or even taking a class and getting a certification, sharing this medicine from a place of my own experience and my own necessity for healing, recognizing that it is truly potent, recognizing that I sat at my altar day after day saying, "Thank you, Mama Cacao. Please enter into my heart and release all of this grief and pain that I'm holding on to. Thank you to all of the four corners of the earth. Thank you to all of the four directions of the earth, north, south, east, west, for coming together to create this potent medicine. Thank you to the keepers of this medicine. Thank you to those who have passed down the wisdom on how to use this medicine. Thank you to those who grew it, harvested it, shipped it, packaged it, sold it, all of that. Just going into prayer around it and really experiencing the way that it shifted my heart and connecting with the consciousness of the cacao. That's such a big part of the plant medicine experience, is recognizing we're not doing plant medicine. We're not doing, in the same way we say doing drugs, we're not doing plant medicine. We're communing with, we're sharing space, we're sitting with, we're experiencing, we're allowing the consciousness of these things to expand inside of us, to expand our own consciousness, to shift our perspective, to shift our energetic bodies. And cacao is such a subtle energetic shift, but it's potent and it's powerful. If you're not attuned, if you're not truly present, you might miss it. But if you're there, you can feel it. You can feel how your heart opens up. Another great heart opener is hawthorn. I was taking a hawthorn tincture and again, connecting with the consciousness of this beautiful medicine, allowing it to penetrate deeply and subtly and to open my heart. And again, if you're not there, if you're not present, you're going to miss it. If you're expecting it to hit you like a Xanny bar, you're going to miss it. But if you're truly tapped in prayer, doing it in reverence, connecting with the consciousness of it, then it's going to be a powerful, potent transformation for you. And so I'm so grateful for the experience of grief because it continued to propel me along my plant medicine journey, which is ultimately one of my greatest missions on this earth, is to continue to walk down the shamanic path, walk down the plant medicine practitioner path into shamanism. And that is based on the experiences that I've had in my plant medicine sits and my plant medicine ceremonies and connecting with plants, and just recognizing that grief for me was such a catalyst into purpose, not only as far as plant medicine, but as far as my art, which is something that I'm very, very proud of. Not only did it take away my fear of being seen and my fear of showing up, it also created so much inspiration for me. I recently wrote a children's book, and the words in the children's book are the poem that I read at my brother's funeral. And I took that poem and I reformatted it into the children's book and created beautiful illustrations, and it will be coming out on the anniversary of my brother's loss, which is May 19th. And so that's something that I'm really excited about, something that I put a lot of love into. And really, I just wanted to give this wisdom not only to people my age, or older or whatever, I wanted to give it to the children. Like I truly feel like I've been charged with the responsibility of shepherding our young people, and showing them the way back to God and how to release the emotions that are keeping them separate from God, because God is unconditional love. And so when you're holding on to grief and shame and sorrow and all these things, that's what keeps you separate from God. But if you can figure out a way to release it, then you can come back to God's grace. And as things on the planet continue to shift and change, we are going to need ways to cope with grief. We are going to need a profound understanding of grief, especially young people, because they don't quite have the wisdom yet to understand the cycles of life. But if we can inform them of that, that they can be equipped with the tools to process and handle and make sense of what's going on around them. The earth is being reborn, and that is going to come with upheaval. It's going to come with loss. It's going to come with grief. On the other side, there will be beauty. There will be joy. There will be happiness. We're going to be in a much more harmonious place as a people. But until we get there, there is going to be a need for recovery. There's going to be a need for understanding. There's going to be a need for education around death and grief and loss and what that looks like. And I just want to give children the opportunity to experience peace even in the midst of that. And so I want to use my story and what I've been through for their healing and their benefit. And I think everybody can truly benefit from this book. It's so beautiful. Even if you aren't dealing with grief or you don't care about the words, like you're getting page after page of custom hand painted artistry. Like this book is beautiful. I can't wait. Hopefully by the time I'm editing this podcast, I can just like throw a picture up so y'all can see what I'm talking about, because it's only in my head right now. It's being made. It's being made, but I don't have it to put up on the screen right now. I don't have a physical copy quite yet. It's not quite done yet, but yeah, man, I'm just so honored. And it's crazy to be at a place where I even feel honored to have gone through this grief. Like I said, there's no silver lining. There's no amount of work I can do on myself. There's no amount of wisdom that I can share with others that can equate to the loss of my brother. But I can be at peace knowing that I've transmuted this experience and the remnants of it are no longer living inside of my body energetically or on a cellular level. I've transmuted it into something powerful and something beautiful. And I know my brother would be so proud of me. I'm thinking right now of just like making music and how he made music. And I just know every time I'm in the studio doing my thing, like he's right there with me. Losing my brother also brought me a lot closer to the understanding of the ancestral realm and the understanding of oneness that I have now. I think before losing my brother, the ancestral realm felt abstract to me. It felt like something I didn't necessarily have a strong connection to, although I knew that revering my ancestors was powerful, a powerful, potent, important practice. These are the people, they are me. They are me. It is me. It is me. It's all me. It's all happening here and now. It's only in this 3D experience that we're having that we experience time and space the way that we do. But in higher dimensions of consciousness, everything is happening here and now. So my ancestors and my descendants are all me here and now. And so when you're pouring love into them, you are also pouring love into yourself. When you're revering them, you're also revering yourself. And so my brother crossing over really just strengthened my relationship and understanding and the importance of pouring into my ancestors, because I'm not just gonna let go of my relationship with my brother just because he's not here physically to communicate with, especially if I know that there are ways that I can still be in communication with him, even if it's through the signs and symbols in nature. My brother comes to me in the form of birds a lot, which is in the children's book. It's really centered around the idea that we can identify our loved ones in the nature all around us. And that takes us to the concept of oneness, where we recognize that nothing is ever truly lost. Energy is never created or destroyed. When my brother passed away, I remember being at the funeral, and I remember looking at his casket, and I remember seeing his body, and it was completely lifeless. And I was like, that's not even my brother. That's a meat suit. That's just flesh. My brother's spirit is still here. My brother's spirit, Savon Davis's spirit, will never leave me. I'll always be able to access that. I can step outside in nature and I can see it in the trees. I can see it in the grass. I can see it in the birds and the bees and the flowers. He's now part of the singular consciousness that we're all a part of. Just like when your favorite musician dies, you can still listen to their music. You can still access their consciousness. They're not limited to their physical vessel. They've transcended the limitations of the physical vessel, but they're still here. They're still there. My brother is still here. And that's what that poem centers around. And so it really just expanded my consciousness and my understanding of the idea of oneness and that everything is interconnected. This is all part of one energetic body. We're just singular expressions of that oneness, individual, unique expressions of that oneness. So I'm really grateful to grief for the way that it informed my artistry and informed the way that I show up in the world. And if I could just impart one message, it would be like, get familiar with death. Stop running from it. I think in our culture, we fear death so much. We fear pain so much. We fear loss so much. We fear grief so much. But it's so crazy because pain always shows up at the most beautiful moments. And I can't figure out why we shun it and push it away. When a baby is born, it induces pain, but there's a baby being born. Why are we trying to stop the pain? Why can't we invite it in, sit with it, ask it what it's trying to teach us? And that's what I've done through this process. I've asked the pain what it's trying to teach me. I've invited it in. I've had cacao with it. I've had medicine with it. I've looked into the energy of it. I've looked into the frequency of it. I've observed how it moves. I've observed what it feels like in my body. I stopped running. I integrated and I allowed it to transform itself into something powerful, something potent, something impactful, something that's going to change lives, something that's going to touch thousands of people through this singular experience. We have to change our preconceived notions around death and understand that this is all part of a cycle. We don't look at a tree in the fall and when the leaves are falling, we think, oh, the tree is dying. No, we understand that it's part of a cycle. We have to begin to look at life that way. And if we do begin to look at life that way, we'll stop clinging so tightly to the way things are and we'll allow them to be the way that they need to be in whatever cycle we're in our life. And however that shows up, we'll understand that when we're in a cycle of pain, that's okay because spring is coming and summer is coming. And even if you're in the winter right now, you understand cycles because you understand death. Death is not a permanent fate. It's part of a continuous cycle. Energy is never created or destroyed. It's recycled. What goes around comes around. You'll find it in other ways. It'll come back to you even better, even more expansive, even more connected, even more aligned. Don't be afraid to let things go. Release what no longer serves you. And I think in the West, if we had more reverence for death, maybe more rituals or more practices that honor death, we would just be more equipped and more understanding of the natural cycles of life. We'd be more prepared to live life. We wouldn't fear as much. We wouldn't hoard as much. Wouldn't be stuck and stagnant trying to hold on to what isn't truly of service to our highest being. I'm so grateful to grief. In retrospect. Only in retrospect. I'm so grateful for where I am now in my grief process. Grief I think once it starts, it doesn't stop. I think grief, I'm never going to not be grieving. I just think the manifestation of what that looks like changes over time depending on the work that you're willing to transmute it. Because even the art is an expression of the grief, and it's beautiful. Even this podcast is an expression of the grief, and it's beautiful. The grief doesn't have to look like tears and sadness. The grief can also look like joy. Grief can look like a deepened understanding of love. Grief can look like beauty. Grief can look like reverence. Grief can look like connecting with nature on a deeper level because you recognize that you are part of the one consciousness that connects us all. I'm grateful to grief. It's taught me so many powerful lessons, and I'm sure it's going to continue teaching me. Lord, now don't feel shy about giving me a break now. I ain't asking for more to be taken away. But in the event that it is, I understand it. And I recognize that you have a greater plan for me in that. So I surrender and I say thank you.